This week on Straight to the Point, new and exclusive reporting about directed energy attacks and the sudden departure of the nation's top intelligence official, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. We sat down with the head of investigations for Judicial Watch, which is now suing multiple government agencies for records about these attacks on U.S. government personnel and civilians, as well as the reported purchase of one of these weapons by Homeland Security Investigations and the Defense Department. The resignation of DNI Gabbard could impact the lawsuit and accelerate the public release of records previously withheld by the U.S. government. So let's get straight to the point. You filed this lawsuit in February against multiple government agencies. Why is Judicial Watch suing the government now?
Well, we filed the request in February 2026, and there's a statutory length of time where the government has to respond. They exceeded that. They didn't respond substantively. And so at a certain point, our only remedy is to go into a federal court and then get a judge involved and compel the agency to produce records in accordance with the law.
As a seasoned investigator, you've been doing this for decades. What does the stonewalling by these government agencies tell you?
Stonewalling is either embarrassment or an outright cover-up, in the sense that either they're very hesitant to tell the truth or they want to tell the truth slowly. They want to sort of dribble out the information, or there's something that they really are not interested in releasing. And it's not necessarily a legitimate desire to withhold information, like if it's classified. This is normally something that they want to withhold because it makes the government look bad.
In the case of directed energy attacks or Havana syndrome, anomalous health incidents, do you think one of the factors is that U.S. government personnel, civilians, have been badly treated?
My interpretation of this is that there's guilty knowledge. And what I mean by that is there are certain officials who had an awareness of this technology, of the weapons, of how it's implemented or used, that they got reporting that people were either hurt or in danger or injured in some way, and that they either failed to act when they should have, or they didn't make corrections or provide defensive countermeasures that would have either mitigated or solved the problem. And so since there's this guilty knowledge, they're very embarrassed because, well, when did you know and what did you know and why didn't you act, or why did you put people back in the same position where they could have been harmed? And the government is not too thrilled about answering those questions.
Let's go back to February of this year. Judicial Watch decided to file these Freedom of Information Act requests. They were very aggressive requests. What was the catalyst?
Well, in large part, your reporting, to be very frank, but also we've been watching this now for some time, literally years, and directed energy weapons are, I think, of great public interest. Certainly if they're being used against U.S. government employees, whether they're State Department or military or other people. And then there was this disturbing development, really, of it not being just a Havana or a foreign situation, but that it was happening domestically, that there was some other instance where it seems people were subjected to that kind of a weapon or that type of technology. And so the public has a right to know. And so we're going to try to uncover that.
I have the lawsuit right here. As you mentioned, it's the Justice Department, the Central Intelligence Agency, Department of Defense or Department of War, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the top intelligence official, as well as Homeland Security. You request some very specific records from the FBI. What are you looking for?
The FBI, because of their mission, essentially as our national counterintelligence agency, had to do with their collection of information and reporting on foreign capabilities, sort of a counter-espionage, counterintelligence view towards, well, who has these things and how would they be used and how will we be targeted? It's the defensive intelligence aspects of this FBI's mission.
And then also these very well-documented attacks here in the United States.
Correct.
We've talked to a number of individuals who say they were hit right here in the Washington, D.C. area.
Right. And so this is obviously under the purview of the FBI. They either, well, they should have, and if they haven't, they need to explain why, investigated these situations, these circumstances, to find out who's doing it, how, what the targeting is, There's just all your basic interrogatives, right? Who, what, when, where, how, and why. We need to understand what was going on. The FBI may not want to tell us all those things, but certainly there's some information they have that should be reported.
With the CIA, you've got some specific requests. What are you looking for?
Right. So there, it's the CIA's mission of doing foreign intelligence collection. So they would be looking at foreign entities, whether they're governments or non-state actors, who would have these type of weapons and who's developing, using them, selling them. It would be the intelligence collection aspect of the issue.
Are you also looking for real-time reporting or
Absolutely.
operational reports
Right. So,
about attacks on CIA personnel, for example?
Exactly. So if there's given any CIA station overseas, if they have an incident or if they have knowledge of the implementation or the use of one of these weapons or the technology, what was it, when, where, how? Again, back to the basic interrogatives. What was going on and how have you reported it and when? Have they known about this for years, months, days? What's the current assessment? What's the current situation?
And this would also show who in the CIA leadership
Absolutely
had knowledge
Absolutely.
of these directed energy attacks, and how did they respond? Did
Right.
they try and cover it up?
Yeah.
Or did they try and take actions to limit it in the future?
Right. So if you consider this an attack, which I think is legitimate to say that, what was done to reverse it, to counter it? What was done to take care of the people that came under attack? Did you turn around and put people right back in the same situation? I mean, that's whether it's the same building or the same apartment or the same circumstance.
And that's one of the allegations that we have heard from survivors of these incidents, that CIA, different agencies, put American citizens right back in the same locations again.
Right. And so, that's a definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so using people as guinea pigs, not a good look, not a good idea. And so if the CIA was doing that knowingly, someone has to answer for it.
Did you ask for any medical records?
Medical records are not readily available under the Freedom of Information Act. Now, if there was a medical analysis or report done, that may be something different. But normally that would contain specific information about a person's, what they presented with or what the problems were. And so normally that's pretty tightly held.
What I've seen through my reporting is that there's been a sort of gaslighting of government employees
Right.
who say that they've been injured. Do you think that's part of the stonewalling?
Yeah, it is. I mean, that goes to the point where the people have not been treated very well, right? Where they're either people who have legitimate medical claims have been kind of shunted off and dismissed, or told they're imagining it, or it's some other condition, or it has nothing to do with it's not an employment-related medical problem, or there's just a hesitancy on the part of the government to admit that this is even going on, because it begs the question, why would you put your people in that position knowingly, right? So you're either sort of negligent or you're complicit, one or the other, pick. And neither of those looks very good for the government.
Based on our reporting, DNI Tulsi Gabbard had completed at least what was described to me as an interim report about these directed energy attacks,
Right.
And that the intelligence assessments under the Biden administration, the analysis that tradecraft was defective. They should be recalled. Did you ask for records related to those assessments?
We did, and that's what we're hoping to get, because I think that an assessment document, even if it doesn't, even with the redactions, the blackout marks where they don't want to tell us stuff, they would be of great value.
You made requests to Homeland Security investigations. What records are you looking for there?
That has to do specifically concerning technology, equipment that Homeland Security may have obtained from a foreign source or entity. They have an interest in this as well, because it's really a defensive, well, literally a Homeland Security, but in the sense of a defensive law enforcement protective mission. And if they had the opportunity to obtain a piece of gear or technology that either was the weapon itself or contributed to the use of the weapon, that would be enormously important.
As an investigator, how do you reconcile what appears to be this disconnect? The purchase of a weapon by Homeland Security Investigations, the Defense Department, that's my reporting as well.
Right.
And then these denials that there is no such thing as a novel weapon, and it's highly unlikely that a foreign adversary is involved.
Yeah, the denial or the kind of the stonewalling, gaslighting is preposterous. It's the worst kept secret in the world. So why go through all these machinations and efforts to pretend that no such thing exists? It doesn't make sense. No one buys it.
Why do you think it's happened?
You know, it's tough to define the negative. I mean, my instinct is, again, some sort kind of a cover-up or some effort to not disclose either the length and breadth or the size of the effort that's involved in these directed energy weapons, or some other technology that is beyond what you would immediately think of, or that there's some other horrible legacy or outcome that they're not interested in disclosing or discussing. Those are two things, and I'm guessing, I'm speculating, but I have to because I don't have any other information. Those are two reasons typically why the government would try to hide something.
We recently had testimony from a CIA whistleblower. He alleged that the CIA had been spying on their investigation into anomalous health incidents or directed energy attacks. He went as far as to claim that secure phone calls with whistleblowers were being monitored. Will any records related to these allegations be produced?
I would hope so, but I think that that type of activity, assuming that what he's saying is true, and I do believe him, the CIA would do everything under the sun to preclude release or discussion of that.
Since you filed the lawsuit, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has said that she is resigning. She's citing personal reasons. She will be in the office until the end of June.
Right.
Do you think the resignation of DNI Gabbard will impact the lawsuit?
It could in a very positive way. The beautiful thing about the Freedom of Information Act is that it's a disclosure statute. Nothing prevents the government from saying, you know what, you asked a question, good, here you go, and give you the records. So literally, with a stroke of a pen, an outgoing DNI could say, there's no reason to go through litigation on this. It's ridiculous. I'm releasing all the documents. It's discretionary. And with her signature, bang, everything could be released essentially immediately.
When Judicial Watch made a decision to file these Freedom of Information Act requests and now litigate,
right,
this was a great moment for us because we do not have the scope, we don't have the resources to do this ourselves. So having someone come in from the outside, sort of move our reporting forward and get some accountability from the government was really just like a gift in the end.
That's the great thing about the work that we do. Whether you agree with us or disagree with us philosophically or editorially, that isn't the point. We get records and documents from the government and say, here, you read them. You tell me what it means. And that's really, I think, where the rubber meets the road.
You know, through my reporting, I'm a big believer in documents.
Yep, absolutely.
I feel like the document tells its own story.
Yeah, people lie, records don't, generally speaking.
Is that why you like documents,
absolutely,
records, reports?
Yeah, because you'll hear endless spin and convoluted reasoning from people, even in a congressional hearing. But in the end, when someone is committed to writing an official report on what happened or what didn't happen or who did what to who when, it's memorialized for a reason. And it helps illuminate, not just the history of what happened, but where we're going.
Why do you do this type of work?
Because no one else is, or at least no one else is doing it to the size and scale and scope that we have. So Judicial Watch has been around for 32 years. I've been there for 27 of the 32. And we ask unpleasant questions and demand accountability from all sorts of agencies, and also Republicans or Democrats. We're equal opportunity offenders in that way. And it's stuff that the public deserves answers on. And very often, the headline goes by and everyone's forgotten about it. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, someone says, oh, wow, look. And there's a whole trove of documents we've uncovered that it fills in the blanks of history. It explains why things have happened. It lets the public understand why or what its government is doing or not doing.
There's several things I want to do a debrief on this week. First is these intelligence assessments that were done under the Biden administration that found it was unlikely a novel weapon and unlikely that a foreign adversary was involved in these attacks on U.S. government personnel and civilians. Previously, I reported that DNI Gabbard's investigative team, known as the DIG, the Directors Initiatives Group, found that the analysis was defective, and the recommendation is that these assessments should be recalled. What I now understand is that there were serious and significant errors in judgment in the analysis, and that the analysis was inconsistent with the level of professionalism you would expect from the CIA. The report, I understand, did not address intention or motivation, but that was an issue to be addressed at a later date. And finally, I've been gathering information for several weeks about these allegations that the CIA was tracking members of DNI Gabbard's investigative team. My latest reporting is that it was very well known in national security circles that a CIA investigations unit had sent emails to members of DNI Gabbard's team requesting that they come in for questioning. I was told that this was not routine. This is a unit that does polygraphs, does investigations, and the timing was very suspect. It didn't feel like routine counterintelligence work. Based on my reporting, there are credible allegations that DNI Gabbard's investigative team was blocked from getting access to key officials and key analysts at CIA who were handling the directed energy portfolio. I also understand that they were blocked from getting correspondence among CIA officials that would help them determine whether the intelligence had been manipulated under the Biden administration. And finally, the allegation, again, credible allegation, is that DNI Gabbard's investigators were not able to access some highly restricted intelligence that's held in compartmented programs. With all of these developments, we have reached out to the relevant U.S. government agency, and if we get a response, we will update you. This is the kind of investigative reporting you have come to expect here on Straight to the Point. We'll see you next time.